Well, Connecticut announced its first 2 UK COVID variant cases earlier this month, and since then, a total of 8 cases have been detected, the latest 4 individuals from New Haven County. Connecticut officials announced Monday a variant strain of the COVID-19 virus, B.1.1.7, commonly known as the UK variant, has been detected in 4 new patients, bringing the state's total to 8 individuals. Of the 8 individuals, 2 are from New Haven, 3 from Oxford, and 3 from West Haven. They range in ages between 15 to 50.
We knew it was here in this state. We knew it was here in this country, but now we are slapped in the face by this fact.
The new cases detected through genomic sequencing at the Jackson Laboratory in Farmington. According to state officials, 2 of the recent individuals who tested positive live in the same household. At least 1 person did travel outside of the United States recently, and there does not appear to be a link between the new cases and the previously detected cases.
It's a tale of 2 cities in terms of our stability, making pretty good progress, hopefully bending the curve, and what I see over in Europe. In Europe, where they've got that UK variant, as the name would suggest, and you see renewed lockdowns in France and Germany, not to mention the United Kingdom. So which way are we going to go?
Governor Lamont says these new cases in Connecticut serve as a reminder that residents should continue social distancing, wearing masks, and it's also causing a greater push to get more people vaccinated. Right now, the state says it has the capacity to vaccinate more individuals, but supply is limited.
This is a race. We are racing to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as we can, ahead of what could be this super contagious strain.
Governor Lamont's executive powers are set to expire in February. The governor announced Monday he is formally requesting to extend his emergency powers, which allow him to issue executive orders until April, a request state Democratic leaders say they approve of.
As we get closer to that February 9th date, we felt that it was imperative to provide clarity for the people of Connecticut, and also imperative for us to continue the overall response that we have during this emergency.
So far, Connecticut has administered more than 300,000 vaccine doses, and state officials estimate they should have about 585,000 vaccine doses delivered by the end of this week. At the state capitol in Hartford, Nia Maldonado, Fox 61 News.